Welcome back to The Closing Table. This is episode number 75. Today, we're going to talk about luxury home auctions right after this.
Welcome to The Closing Table with host Tamera, where we break down how to be successful in real estate and what it's really like to work in the real estate business. This is The Closing Table with Lawyer's Title.
Today's guest is someone that I've known for a very long time. I'm really excited to have her on the podcast today because we're going to talk about luxury home auctions, which I think is a great alternative for luxury properties instead of marketing in a traditional way, right? Today's guest is Alicia Chmielewski. She is a realtor with Keller Williams Frisco and a licensed auctioneer. And I am really excited to kind of dive into this a little bit. I didn't know a lot about auctions until I started talking with her. And we all know luxury properties aren't moving as fast today as we would like for them to. Sometimes the listings are expiring and they're not closing at all. So I think this is a great way to a great thing to consider as a marketing tool with your clients. And we're going to dive into it a little bit more here today. So Alicia, thank you for joining me on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And so, like I said, I've known you for a long time. I knew that you worked in this space, but we've never really had an in-depth conversation about it. So I want to start kind of diving in and picking apart how this can work with a realtor and their business. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's start with question number one. It's how long have you been in the auction space and what made you want to move into the space?
So great question. I started off in real estate probably about 16 years ago now. Had my first luxury listing down in Dallas, and by luxury, I'm in several $1 million. And I was looking to set it apart somehow. Like, what could I possibly do to bring more attention to this than all the other 60, 70 multi-million-dollar properties that were also in the same city?
That's right.
So needless to say, I'm like, okay, I got to do something different. I discovered auctions because I was agent to meet, first of all. So
agents meet on the property.
Yes. So
okay,
I
and so
meet
define
the buyer's agents.
Just in case. Okay, there you go.
I would meet
just
buyer's agents as well as the buyers, and I would give them the tour because obviously it's one of a kind, it's custom. There's a lot of little nuances. Mm-hmm. You don't want to miss anything. You know, the basic luxury home tour, right? But at the end of the tour, I would often ask, I'm like, okay, so how does this compare to what you were expecting whenever you first arrived? And
that's a great question.
I got so many great responses because the motivation behind buyers is totally different in the high end than in, I'm going to say, the average price points, right? So with that being said, I got pushed back. These were not unqualified people. They're totally capable of doing whatever they want whenever they want to do it. They had to have proof of funds in order to even get an appointment to see the property. Yeah. So it was just like, okay, what can make them act? Where's that motivation? They can do whatever they want and stay wherever they want. They don't have to get their kids in school at a certain time because heck, they can stay at their vacation home. They could stay anywhere. They can stay at the Ritz. You know, it really doesn't matter like it does to, I would say, the average home buyer. So how do you create that motivation when it simply is not there? I discovered auctions because now you're creating a fear of loss, and everyone knows FOMO. No one wants to lose out on opportunity,
right?
Especially those that have worked so hard to have the opportunities and the status that they've attained.
Okay.
So I was sold on the concept. I did pitch it to my sellers at the time. We wound up with a traditional offer contracted normally. But ever since that point, I was an absolute believer. I then shortly thereafter met my former business partner. We started working auctions together. Now I partner with luxury home listing agents across the country at various brokerages to help them market and sell with the same fear of loss.
Well, and I want to define something because you said something really interesting yesterday. What do you consider luxury? Because when we were talking yesterday, that was something that you brought up, and I was like, I wonder why she said that. So let's define luxury.
So
for
luxury for me, from an auction standpoint, is really going to be based upon the market. So for instance, you can have $1 million homes in California that are shacks.
Right.
So it's going to have to, from a marketing and from a visual standpoint, look luxurious. So in that sense, normally 2 million is kind of the starting point for the luxury market. At least here in North Texas. California is going to be a minimum of 3, Miami 3. Again, just kind of depends on the marketplace, but I would say 2 on average.
2 on average. Okay. And then you were telling me that you have auctioned off some unusual properties. Tell me about your favorite one.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's some really cool houses that I've had the opportunity of marketing. Just recently sold one with a nearly 2,000 square foot bunker underneath the house.
I know, we were talking about that bunker and I'm like,
it was super crazy awesome. It was a 15,000 square foot home.
Yeah. Oh, wait, let me clarify something because you said this yesterday. So you just sold the bunker.
No.
You sold the whole property. There was a bunker.
Property.
I was like, well, because you see things sectioned off, right? Somebody has a lot of land. Right. You can section off the house. I didn't know where the bunker was. Maybe it's on the back 40, right? So that's why I'm asking to clarify.
It was a whole property. It was just a unique element, a very unique element.
Where was this house?
This was up in Pennsylvania, right on the Delaware River. Oh my gosh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Bunker.
Yep, that was pretty fun. I had one that had great history in Maryland that it was on numerous television shows, movies. They filmed a lot there, but Amelia Earhart had also flown in at one point years ago to meet with the then owners and do lunch with them.
Wow.
Like the stories, and they even had pictures of her there. I mean, it was very, very cool. So very unusual.
The one that I thought was fascinating, do you want to tell me about the penthouse that you told me about yesterday?
Yes. Tom Clancy's penthouse at the Ritz.
That's pretty cool.
It was very awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And tell me your favorite part about the penthouse.
Well, probably the master closet or the primary closet.
Okay, yesterday you said the library. You said it was really fascinating.
Yes, well, because it was Tom Clancy's library. Yeah, that was really cool.
So kind of my next question, this is what I want to kind of dive into a little bit. Tell me, because when you said that a property went up for auction, one of my first questions was, what happens if a realtor brings you a property, right? Are they cut out of the deal?
Absolutely not.
And so I want to kind of explore how it works with a realtor, and then how can they use auctions as a tool in their toolbox?
Absolutely. So when it comes to actually working on any property, I always partner with an agent.
Okay.
So every property that we take on has to be listed. It's going to be listed in MLS. The listing agent is going to have whatever agreement they have with their
the seller. Yeah.
Yes, there are some changes as to how things wind up getting paid out at closing, but they are still getting whatever their agreement is with the seller.
Okay.
I come in as their marketing partner.
Okay.
And so
explain that.
So basically, when it comes to marketing, like you are the agent, let's say in this case.
Sure.
You're the listing agent, but you can only do so much. Your reach is only so far. I specialize in the auction component. And so you're going to be selling the house, the features, and all of this. And you're going to be the resource for, answering questions about maybe it's the area, maybe it's the house, anything that you're already accustomed doing. When it comes to the accelerated marketing component of auctions, that is what I handle. So I'm going to be dealing with the PR, additional marketing, far more than what a traditionally listed home is going to get.
We're talking national and international marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we have a common goal. We complement each other, and, we work towards that goal together. And there are weekly conference calls between the agents as well as the sellers. So everyone knows what's going on, who's got what contacts. It truly is a team player type situation.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of pull that, fear of that.
Yeah.
The realtor getting cut out of the deal of it, right?
Never. We couldn't do this without the realtor.
Okay. Because like you said, they're the ones that know the property. They're the ones that know the area. They're the ones that can help explain all the nuances about the property, et cetera. Because
as an agent, you're doing everything that you've done before.
Okay.
But now you've got a whole team on your side also pushing marketing.
Well, and so there was something that you had said. You did say accelerated marketing for motivated sellers, which I liked. But you said something about media attention. Like you guys have higher media attention for the properties than an individual agent. So do you want to explain that a little bit?
So, think about the news in general. Everyone likes gossip. Well, the media knows that they can come to us for luxury home gossip because that's all we do. We just deal with luxury homes that are fabulous, that are unique, that are one of a kind. So we tend to be able to get a lot more attention that is just, I'm going to say like that authentic, real, instead of just ads. If you sell a luxury home once every year, or maybe a couple homes a year, you don't have the constant excitement that the media is really going to pay attention to. So we're very much involved in PR, both for the property and as well as marketing. So it does come together. I had one that the seller, awesome, one of the Swarovski family members.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm sure they had a nice house.
Beautiful house. And
was
like,
it blinged out?
I mean, there were definitely some crystals and even like the recessed lighting, and it was so beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. But it was very awesome because this is a home that was here in Westlake. And
oh, interesting.
And so it was cool because the family the parents were actually in London, and they're like, oh my gosh, we see your house here.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
I mean, word can spread, especially when it's story-based instead of just ads. And so we have a lot of people that, they want to know, who doesn't like pretty houses and pretty things?
For sure. And famous people that own those pretty houses and pretty things. Okay, so so that brings me to another question. So where do the buyers come from? You said there's a lot of media attention built around these properties, but you have a funnel for capturing the buyers, right? Because you're bringing them to the auction.
Yeah.
So who are these? Where do the buyers come from? They see the media attention and reach out, or?
Sometimes we have a lot of people that follow us as well.
Okay.
Obviously, each auction, there can only be one winner. So that means everyone else that did not win is capable of another purchase. And a lot of times I'm always shocked at how many people, they don't even know that they like something until they actually get there. So you might not have realized you were looking for a home in, let's say, Florida. Mm-hmm. But then you all of a sudden see, and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity. I need to check this out. You get to the property, you walk in the door, you fall in love, and now you're just like, this is the perfect second home for me. Or this is my perfect like forever home, whatever the case may be. Because not only are we selling a house, we're selling an opportunity. And so people that are used to winning and seizing opportunity to get where they are in life, they're going to be more in tune with checking it out and considering it, whether or not they even know that that's something that they want to move forward on.
Okay, so from the time you take on a property to the time it goes to auction, like you actually have the auction, I mean, obviously, we're talking about people that are flying in sometimes internationally, right? So they need some time for. So what is the time span between when you first take it on and the actual auction?
So good question. It depends on the property, but normally 35 to 45 days.
Okay.
So things go fast. They're obviously everyone's given enough time in order to do their due diligence. But at the same time, we don't want anything to get stale. Time kills deals. Just like time on the market.
Time on the market,
I mean, your days on market just adding up makes people question like, okay, what's wrong with the house? Blah, 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 blah. So we try and keep things going so that way people don't, get busy on something else and divert their attention. But it's great for a seller because that means that they know that, okay, we can do this quickly and we can actually be able to move on again. So then you're going to have a 30-day close after that, which is pretty typical. Some close faster. But yeah, so normally a 35 to 45-day marketing period, 30-day close.
Okay. And then the next question that I have is, let's talk about the contract, right? So, well, actually, let me ask you a question before that.
Sure.
Is the seller getting market value if they auction the property?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm kind of two-part question. One, what is market value? It is what someone's willing to pay.
True.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you have listed in MLS.
Correct.
Okay.
And everyone wants $1 billion for their property.
Sure.
But the market is going to dictate what it actually is. Now, how do you determine what the highest amount someone's willing to pay for your property is? You get everyone in a room bidding against each other, fighting over the property, just like in a multiple offer situation, until the highest number is reached. So we generate that for the high end. So then you know that, okay, this on this date, in this condition, and the condition, the price, the location, this is what the public is willing to pay. So yes, you do reach market value expeditiously.
So how do you determine the starting value of the property?
So the starting value is really going to be determined twofold. One, by buyers. We often see that sellers want to offer an opening bid incentive. So buyers will wind up putting down their starting bid. Did I say sellers? I meant buyers. Buyers will put down their starting bid.
Okay.
And then from there, we know that's going to act somewhat like a reserve.
Is that before it goes on auction?
That's before the actual opening of the auction on auction day.
Okay, so they'll see the property on your website or whatever the resource is for them seeing the property,
They're
right?
They're going to see it on MLS. They're going to see it everywhere.
Yeah. See it everywhere. Okay, and so they put down a starting bid before it goes auction. So that kind of determines what value you're going to set it at the auction or the starting price?
It's going to be the opening of the auction.
Okay.
So our list price is generally a suggested value.
Okay.
Now, there are some people that suggest things that are not reasonable. There are others that are just, truly, I always tell the agent, if you were to have to determine what the market value of this house is, that is what should be listed in MLS. So that way people are understanding and getting the right mindset.
Well, and you experience this in the traditional real estate space. How do you navigate a unrealistic seller?
Well, just like in traditional, if they're not going to be realistic about selling, if they want to test the market, you're wasting your time as an agent taking it on.
So you won't take it on?
No.
Good for you. Yay.
I want success. Hey,
I was leading you to that question on purpose because, look, we're starting to see this again in the traditional real estate. We saw a ton of this in, I think it was like second, third quarter of 2018 when sellers were unrealistic about their prices. Realtors were trying to figure out what to do. One of the strategies I personally didn't agree with, but I'm not a practicing realtor, so what do I know? But I'm going to take it, Mr. Seller, I'm going to take the property at your price. We're going to test it for 2 weeks. And then when it doesn't sell, or if it doesn't sell, then we're going to do things my way and we're going to lower the price. I'm not a fan of that strategy. The reason why is it's sitting on the market. Okay.
It's getting stale.
It's getting stale already. You can do a price drop, which will kind of invigorate it on MLS a little bit. But by then you're already like losing your strategic position on that property, right? So then what's a buyer going to do? Well, they already price dropped. They're probably willing to price drop again,
Exactly.
So instead, I prefer the strategy of setting the price correctly, and maybe just a touch below what it's valued at in hopes of creating multiple offers. And then you get an even higher price for it anyway. But I was curious, like, how do you, and I appreciate very much that you said we don't take it.
Yeah. No, I will turn down far more than we'll even take on.
Interesting. How many do you think you turn down versus take?
I probably take one for every 5 I turn down.
Interesting. Okay.
Because we're very much boutique and it's all eyes and all attention on that property. We're not going to take 2 competing properties and have them both compete against each other in the same market at the same time. So we have to be selective. And, it's too much time, it's too much effort, it's too much money, it's too much marketing to just throw it away on something that you're like, this doesn't even have a good chance.
Well, and I also think you would start to lose your buyer's attention.
Oh, absolutely.
And you want your buyers to your buyer pool to pay attention when you put something up. They're like, you want them looking at it and wanting it.
Exactly.
And figuring out how to try to get it.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you put up a whole bunch of stuff up there that's overpriced, that's going to, you're going to lose the attention of your buyer pool.
And I want my sellers to be happy too. And that's a big thing because, if their expectation is here and the market really is here, if I can do everything that I can do, but I can't work miracles.
Amen.
So, we want them to be happy so that they tell their friends. And I mean, just like in traditional real estate, referrals are everything. So
reputation is everything too.
To definitely keep that reputation good and clean. Okay,
there was something also, it made sense once you said it because it kind of aligns with what you're going to experience if you go to like a city, like a county or a city auction, where properties are being unfortunately foreclosed upon and, they're trying to dump them. But the terms of the contract, they were pretty precise.
Yes.
Things that and not the same as as what you would negotiate in a traditional real estate transaction, right?
Yes and no. Okay, so disclaimer, always read the terms and conditions of every auction. regardless of whether or not you're dealing with the same auction house, the terms might be slightly different because of an area or because of anything else. But typically speaking, we are going to use estate promulgated contracts. We are going to dictate that the buyer agree to these terms. The buyer is paying title. The buyer is not getting an option period. It is as is, where is. At Hammer, they're agreeing and they're putting up 10% of the actual purchase price in escrow, non-refundable.
Yeah.
Immediately. And
10% of a $2 million house.
That's a huge contribution if you walk away from it.
Yeah.
And knock on wood, that has not happened.
Okay. You've never had anyone have to forfeit their earnest money.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
That's a lot of money to lose.
It is a lot of money. You're in it. You're in it once you throw that out there.
That's right. But no, from an agent standpoint, when they're trying to like, okay, if this is their first auction, it really is simple. It's a non-contingent sale. It is as is, where is. There's no like, let's
all
come back.
Cash. You said
it's not. There's no contingencies, so
understood.
They can finance, but just realize that if you don't get your financing in line, you're still committed to purchasing.
Got it.
So, I mean, but you're still using the same contracts. We're just attaching our actual terms and conditions to it. So
yeah, you said Trek 1 to 4.
Yeah, it's not anything like, oh my gosh, it's like totally different. It's not.
Wait a minute. That's interesting because you said yesterday we used the Trek 1 to 4, right? Mm-hmm. But you're dealing with properties all over the place. Yeah. You have to know all of the contracts.
And that's why I rely on the agents.
Okay, that makes sense.
We come in as an addendum, like from a terms and conditions standpoint. And once again, it just depends on the state. Sometimes they're attorney led, and that's the case. Then we work like with an attorney to actually, put everything together. But it's normally the same way that those agents in that area are used to doing business. So if there is a standard promulgated contract, that's what we're going to use.
Cool. Okay. Understood. I have a curious question for you. I don't mean this so generally speaking. I do want to ask you where the buyers come from, but not just generally speaking. I'm kind of more like that property in Westlake that you were talking about. Are the buyers was that buyer from California? Was that buyer an international buyer? Like, I'm curious, like, where are these buyers coming from?
I mean, it really varies. And I would say that I'm always surprised that there tends to be more people locally than you might realize.
Interesting.
I had one. This was in Preston Hollow. Great home, had sat on the market about 2.5 years. They were just like, okay, we've got to make this happen. We've got to make this move. And so we decided to go auction. And incredibly, one of our actual winning buyer was not even wanting to go to auction. He made a pre-auction offer.
He was like, I want this house and I'm going to cut everybody out.
And the crazy thing is that he didn't live far away, but he would have never stepped foot on that property had it not been for auction. And then he realized what a park-like backyard it had. And he's just like, this is amazing. I need this.
Wait, why do you say that? Why do you say he would not have seen this or gone to this property if it weren't for auction?
Because now he's looking at opportunity. So he sees there's a possibility that there might be an opportunity here. And of course, it's all psychological. But it got him through the front door. And that is half the battle when it comes to selling a house.
It is half the battle. Getting a qualified buyer to come through the door. It's a challenge right now in any price point, but right now, especially, I mean, I have clients that carry quite a heavy listing load of luxury properties, and we're not really seeing those, get to the closing table right now. They have very lengthy time on market. Some others, other agents I've seen where the listing will expire altogether. Sometimes they decide to take it off the market, put it back on later, and these people have the luxury to do that, right? Whereas in, some of them with the more average price points, the buyers actually have to sell the house. But
still, like, people want to be able to move on. Like, why tie everything up in an asset that you're not utilizing? It's
a very expensive asset, by the way.
Yes.
I just think it's really interesting that you said that the buyer for that particular property was local.
Yeah. And that was
I can see it for sure.
Oh, of course. But it's just like, even the seller was just like, he is probably driven by this house and seen every sign of every time I had it listed in the last 2.5 years. And he didn't do anything until now, because not only are we selling that house, we're selling an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that it creates this urgency.
It
does. It for sure creates an urgency for that property because now it's up for auction. Now there's buyers that can buy that property in that pool, right? And so you're going to have more exposure to the listing with qualified people that can actually buy it as opposed to people that may not be able, if you have an open house or a broker open or something like that, you're not going to get as many people through the door that are qualified. I think it's really an interesting alternative to the challenges that we're kind of looking at right now in the luxury space.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've tried things traditionally and, what is it? The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Well, maybe you should try something different and see, if you can make things happen for your clients faster.
It's so interesting. Okay. So if a realtor wants to approach their seller about an auction opportunity, how do you coach them? What does that conversation look like that you coach them to have with the seller?
So I would rather be the one explaining things because this is what I do. I'm known as the luxury home auction girl because that is what I specialize in. Now, when it comes to an agent, if this is their first one, they normally don't have any clue how to explain it, or they try and answer questions and they wind up digging a hole. So let me do the talking. Bring me in as your marketing partner that specializes in accelerated marketing options for luxury homes.
Love that.
And so whether it be by a phone call, whether it actually be there in person, if it is something local, I am more than happy to walk through the property with the listing agent and the seller themselves. If it's not local, if I happen to be there, great. If not, we'll have a phone call and see if it's even something that, might be a good fit and then just explore that further.
Well, and I definitely agree that they need to bring you into the and let you have the conversation. But how do they do the introduction of the idea?
So the introduction, probably, and it kind of depends on where things are with the listing.
Okay.
So I have one that you guys will probably see soon. It is not finalized yet, but it is here in North Texas. And everyone knows it's a very unique property. And it's going to be a very unique buyer that winds up loving this.
Okay.
But we know that they may or may not be local. And so we're going to go straight out of the gate to auction.
Okay.
So that way we get the absolute maximum push from the beginning. So everything's fresh. It's exciting. It's new. All eyes are going to be on it.
Now I want to know what it is.
Oh my gosh, you're going to love it. You're going to love it.
What it is and who owns it.
Oh my gosh. It's pretty cool.
Now I'm going to every time you have a listing, I'm going to Alicia, tell me. I'm going to look at all of your listings on MLS. I'm going to look at all the pictures and then I'm going to call you and be like, who owns it?
Oh my gosh. No.
Actually, I can just... Well, no, you can't typically find that stuff out on the CAD because they've got entities.
Yeah.
Most
of them are not going to be in their name.
Tom's name wasn't in the CAD. Yeah. I'm guessing.
No, it wasn't. But nope. Follow me on Instagram, Luxury Home Auction Girl, and you'll see the upcoming ones.
So interesting. Okay. Any last words of advice to a realtor about auctions?
Don't be afraid of them. There's so many people that have been in the business for years and years and years, and they're just like, okay, well, maybe what I'm doing, should be tweaked, but I'm comfortable. I know this. It's really not scary. It's really not. It's not as big of a difference to what you're used to doing as some people will realize. So if you are actually showing a buyer, for instance, that has, they want to see an auction property, don't be intimidated. Just research the terms and conditions. Feel free to call the auctioneer or the auction house that's actually hosting the auction, and they're going to explain it. So it's not like it's not scary. Don't be afraid of it. Go for it. You're still protected as an agent.
Well, and I think the point is to get it under contract and actually trade the property, right?
Absolutely.
So I think this is a
great
alternative. Yeah, I've learned a lot today. That's typically not something I can say when I walk away from these podcasts. So thank you for the education today. I have a client I want to introduce you to.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm excited.
Anyway, well, thank you for joining me on the show today, Alicia.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it very much. I'm excited for this one to come out. And so that's a wrap on episode number 75. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Tamera Gady. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation going about your title needs and make it a great day.